I never imagined a birthday cake could lead to betrayal, but there I was standing in the middle of my brother's birthday party with 30 relatives watching as my own mother slapped me across the face, all because I refused to hand over the lake house I spent my entire adult life working for. She called me selfish, said I'd forgotten where I came from, and in that moment, not a single person stood up for me. That was the night I realized I wasn't part of a family, I was part of a system, one that only loved me when I was useful. Have you ever had to choose between your peace and your family's approval? Between protecting what you've built and the guilt they want you to carry? If any part of this story sounds familiar, I invite you to stay with me, because what happened next, it changed everything. And if you're someone who values stories of resilience, of standing up for yourself when no one else will, take a second to hit that subscribe button. That way, even if life pulls you away, you won't miss the rest of this journey. Or the stories we'll share next time, ones that just might remind you you're not alone. So, what would you have done if your entire family turned against you for simply saying no? Let's begin. My name is Clara Dawson. I was born in a quiet Wisconsin town where everybody knew your name and most assumed your future. My parents, James and Linda, were high school sweethearts. They married young, bought a modest house near the lake, and had 2 kids. Nathan came first, 3 years older than me, and from the moment he arrived, he was everything they had hoped for. Smart? Sure, charming. Always, but more than that, he was their son. And I was the daughter that came next. Growing up, I was the quiet one, the bookworm, the girl who could fix her own bike and build her first treehouse because no one else would. When I brought home straight A's, my mum would smile politely and say, "That's nice, honey. Nathan got picked for first base today." When I won a middle school science fair with a homemade water purifier, my dad said, "Impressive. But remember, boys don't like girls who outshine them." And when I got into the honors program in high school, they barely noticed because Nathan had just crashed their car and everyone was too busy figuring out how to blame the brakes. That's the kind of household I grew up in. It wasn't cruel, it wasn't abusive in the way some people think, but it was clear. Nathan mattered more. He could skip chores, sleep in, crash grades, and still be their pride. A, on the other hand, was expected to behave, to help, to give, because you're the responsible one, Clara. By the time we reached our teens, the gap was a canyon. Nathan got the new phone, the tutoring, the car. I got hand-me-downs, leftovers, and instructions to not make things harder for your brother. But I didn't complain. I studied. I worked. Weekends at the bakery 2 towns over, and I saved every dime from babysitting, mowing lawns, and doing homework for kids who'd rather pay than study. Because I had a plan. Get out, go to college, make something of myself. At 16, I had a 4.0 GPA and dreams of becoming an architect. I loved the way buildings stood, strong, designed with purpose. I told my parents I wanted to study engineering. My mother said, "That's a man's field, sweetheart." "Why not go into teaching?" my father added. "Besides, Nathan might need help paying for college. We can't afford 2 at once." And just like that, my future became an afterthought. Nathan was going to a private university in Michigan. Tuition, housing, books, all covered by my parents. He was going to study music. Even though he'd never finished a full song in his life, I was told to consider community college, or better yet, stay home, work part-time, and take care of Grandma until Nathan got settled. But I didn't. I applied to scholarships in secret, wrote essays at night after long shifts at the bakery, and when I got a full ride to a state university 2 hours away, I packed my bags and left, without fanfare, without tears, without a goodbye party. Just a quiet car ride to campus. And my dad's final words, "Don't mess this up. We can't afford to bail you out." I remember standing in my tiny dorm room that night, bare mattress, second-hand sheets, and a single suitcase, and thinking, this is it, I'm finally on my own. What I didn't know then was that no matter how far I ran, that family dynamic would follow me. College was hard. Not the classes, I loved those. Math, physics, design. Every blueprint felt like a promise. But life outside the classroom, that was survival. While other students were making friends at mixers, I was working the night shift at a diner, serving pancakes to tired truckers, refilling coffee for cramming students, then waking up at 6 to finish assignments before lab. Roommate had a trust fund. I had 2 jobs, a used laptop and a mini fridge that hummed louder than it cooled. Still, I was proud. Every dollar in my account was mine. Every textbook I bought, every sandwich I ate, it all came from my effort, and slowly, brick by brick, I was building something. Sophomore year, I landed an internship with a small construction firm. I was the only woman on site. At first, the crew called me Kid and asked if I was lost. But when I redesigned a support beam layout that saved the company thousands, they started calling me Boss. By graduation, I had job offers from 3 firms. I chose one in Minnesota, far from home, but close enough to feel safe. That first paycheck, it didn't go toward clothes or vacations. It went toward paying off a medical bill my parents had ignored for Grandma. I didn't even think twice, because that's what I did. I picked up what they dropped, and I kept building. Studio apartment. Then, a 1-bedroom near the river. Promotions, night classes, certifications, and every time I moved up, I whispered, "You're doing it, Clara. You're making it real." Then came the lake, not the one from my childhood, but one a few counties over, surrounded by pine trees and long gravel roads. I found the listing late one night. Tiny cabin, run-down dock, paint peeling, but something about it felt right. The price was just within reach if I emptied my savings and skipped vacations for a while. It wasn't fancy. It had no AC. The floors creaked, and there was a family of squirrels squatting in the attic. I named them Squeak, Squirrelton, and Lady Acorn. That first weekend I moved in, I decided to take the old canoe out on the water. No experience, no balance, no common sense. I lasted all of 10 minutes before tipping straight into the lake, fully clothed, phone in pocket, dignity left behind on the shore. I came up sputtering, freezing, and laughing harder than I had in years. That was the moment it hit me. This place wasn't just property, it was peace. A peace I had earned. I spent months fixing it up, sanding floors, replacing shutters, learning how to rewire a fuse box thanks to YouTube, and a kind hardware store clerk named Pete. By the end of that summer, I had a porch swing, working plumbing, and a quiet spot to watch the sun melt into the lake. It wasn't just a cabin anymore, it was mine. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. Not my parents, not Nathan, not the past. But peace, I would learn, makes some people uncomfortable, especially those who benefit from your chaos. It started small, a text from my mom, "Looks cozy. Can Nathan visit sometime?" A call from Dad. "You know, a single woman alone up there seems a little unsafe. Maybe your brother could check in on you." I brushed it off, until the day Nathan showed up, uninvited, holding a bag of groceries and a 6-pack of beer, grinning like he owned the place. Nathan made himself at home faster than I could say, "This isn't a visit." He put his feet on my coffee table, raided the fridge, took one look at my DIY bookshelves and said, "Not bad, and for a girl with a toolbox." He stayed for 3 days, claimed his car broke down, said he just needed to clear his head. And when he finally left, He took my favorite blanket, said he'd bring it back next time. I told myself it was a one-time thing, but then came the phone calls. "Clara, honey," my mom cooed, "Nathan's been going through a rough patch. Could you maybe help him out, just for a little while? Maybe send him something for rent? Or car repairs or food?" At first I said no. Then guilt did what guilt always does. It softened me. I sent $200, then $5. Then I covered a bounce check and paid off a tow fee. Each time they promised it was the last, but it never was. By the end of that month, I'd given Nathan close to $1,000, and he hadn't even said thank you. Instead, he sent a text. "Hey sis, think you could add HBO to your cabin's internet? I want to watch something when I crash there." I stared at that message so long I nearly dropped my phone. That's when I realized Nathan didn't see me as a person. He saw me as a resource. My home, a backup plan, my time, free labor, my money, family obligation. The next week I got a handwritten letter in the mail from Aunt Denise. Aunt Denise doesn't usually write. She forwards chain emails with angel gifts and recipes that start with a stick of butter. Her letter read, "Dear Clara, we all think you're doing well, and we're proud of your success. But remember, you didn't get there alone. Family helped raise you. Family gave you your values. Now it's time to give back. Nathan is struggling. You have more than enough. Don't let pride come before compassion." I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or frame it as the world's most passive-aggressive art piece. But the message was clear. To them, Nathan's struggles were my burden, his failures, my responsibility, and my success, apparently just a loan. I was expected to repay forever. Even my dad, who usually stayed out of emotional messes, chimed in. "Clara, men need space. Nathan just needs a stable environment to get back on his feet. You've got that extra room, right?" The extra room they referred to. That was my office, my sanctuary, the place where I built a business plan, read late into the night, and dreamed without judgment, and they wanted me to hand it over. Just like that, like it wasn't earned, like it wasn't mine. Rebecca, my closest friend, had warned me years ago. Some families don't love you, they love what you give them. I used to think that was too harsh. Now, it didn't feel harsh enough. Then came the twist I didn't expect. One morning I got an email, no subject line, just a few chilling words. "You've changed, Clara. Don't forget who helped you." No signature, no reply address, just a dark, little warning sitting in my inbox like a storm cloud. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Was it Mom, Nathan? Someone else in the family? Or just a bad joke from someone who knew too much? I didn't know. But something in me shifted that day. I stopped answering their calls right away. I paused before replying to texts. I started listening to that small, stubborn voice inside, the one that whispered, "You don't owe them your peace." Still, part of me hoped it would stop, that they'd back off, that they'd remember I was a daughter, a sister, a person, not just a safety net. But families like mine, they don't take silence as a message. They take it as a challenge. Nathan's 35th birthday was supposed to be a simple dinner. That's what my mother said. Just a quiet night with family, she promised. Nothing fancy, no pressure. I should have known better. The moment I walked into my parents' house, I felt it. That air of polite tension, the way conversations dipped when I entered the room. The cake was from Nathan's favorite bakery. The decorations were borderline childish. Balloons, banners, a giant 35 made of gold foil, and the guest list? Aunts, uncles, cousins, even family friends I hadn't seen in a decade. But none of them looked surprised to see each other. Just surprised to see me. I handed Nathan his gift, an engraved watch I'd saved up for, and he barely glanced at it. "Thanks," he mumbled, then set it aside without even opening the box. I bit my tongue, sat down. smiled through the noise. Dinner was served at 6 roast beef. Mashed potatoes, all Nathan's favorites. I was seated at the far end of the table next to my father's old co-worker and Aunt Denise, who gave me a look like I'd worn a fur coat to a vegan potluck. The conversation flowed like wine, heavily, and mostly around me. They spoke of Nathan's potential, his unique creativity, his bad luck. No one asked about my work, no one asked about the cabin, no one asked anything until dessert. That's when it happened. My father stood up, tapped his glass with a spoon and cleared his throat. If I could have everyone's attention. The room quieted. Forks paused mid-air. We wanted to take a moment tonight, not just to celebrate Nathan's birthday, but to talk as a family. My stomach turned. My mother stood next to him, placing a hand on his arm. "You all know Nathan's been through a lot," she said gently. "And Clara has been so blessed this year. A successful job, a beautiful home, and more than enough space." Eyes turned toward me. I froze. My uncle chimed in. "Seems to us that there's a simple solution here. Clara has a second bedroom she barely uses. Nathan needs a place. Why not share?" It felt like a rehearsed play, and I was the only one who hadn't seen the script. "You want me to let Nathan move into my lake house?" I asked. My mother nodded, smiling as if it were the most obvious, reasonable thing in the world. "Just until he gets back on his feet," she said. "It would mean so much to the family." Before I could respond, Nathan leaned back in his chair. "It makes sense, doesn't it? You're hardly there. I'd take good care of it." The room watched me like I was a contestant on some twisted game show. "Choose door 1. Say yes. Surrender. Your sanctuary. Choose door 2. Say no and be the villain." I looked around at the people who had watched me grow up, at the people who had ignored every one of my milestones, and I said, "No." Silence. My mother blinked. "No," she repeated. "My house is not a spare room," I said calmly. "I worked for it. I sacrificed for it. And I won't give it up, not even temporarily." The temperature dropped 10 degrees. "You're being selfish," my father said. "After everything we've done for you." I opened my mouth to reply, and that's when it happened. My mother stepped forward here and slapped me right across the face. The sound echoed. The room gasped, my cheek burned. But what hurt more, no one said a word. Not Nathan, not my father, not Auntie. Denise, not a single soul. I stood there frozen, and then I noticed it, my cousin Olivia holding up her phone, recording. Her expression was half shock, half entertainment. I turned and walked out. No dramatic speech, no tears, just the sound of my heels on the tile floor and the faint click of a video ending. By the time I reached my car, the texts had already started. "Please come back. You overreacted. Don't. Make this about you." But I knew the truth. This wasn't a family dinner, it was an ambush, and someone had just live-streamed it to the world. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of the slap, not even because of the silence, but because of what came after. By morning, the video had made its rounds. Olivia hadn't posted it publicly, yet, but she'd sent it to the family group chat, and someone had shared it. People I hadn't spoken to in years were messaging me, some with sympathy, some with shame, but most and with guilt trips dressed as concern. One message read, "You could have handled that better. Your mum's just worried about Nathan." Another, "Maybe don't record private family moments next time." It looked bad for all of us, but the worst came from Nathan. He posted a cryptic message on Facebook. "Some people forget who helped them climb once they reach the top. It's sad when your own sister values a lake house more than family." Family first. Disappointed. It got shared 27 times. Most of the comments were exactly what you'd expect. Poor Nathan. She always thought she was better. Hope she realizes what she's doing before it's too late. I wanted to scream, to type out every scholarship, every night shift, every repair I'd made on that house with my bare hands, but I didn't. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I blocked them. Nathan, my parents, Olivia, the whole lot, and for a moment it felt good, quiet, until the knock on my office door. Clara, my assistant, peeked in. "There's a man downstairs asking for you. Said it's a family emergency." I froze. "Who?" He said his name is Nathan. "Should." No, I said quickly. "Absolutely not." But it was too late. He'd already slipped into the building. Security found him roaming the lobby, talking to reception, pretending he had something to deliver to his sister upstairs. I was mortified. This was my workplace, my safe space, and now it was a stage for Nathan's latest performance. I had him escorted out. Then I called building management, filed a restriction notice. Nathan was no longer welcome on the premises. But the damage, it lingered, my co-workers whispered. Some tried to be kind. Family's tough, huh? Hope everything's okay at home. Others just looked away, and I could feel it, that old shame creeping back in, that voice that said, "You're making a scene. You're being dramatic. You should just fix this." But something in me had shifted since the birthday party. Maybe it was the sting still lingering on my cheek. Maybe it was the recording. Maybe it was the realization that no one had defended me, not even once. So instead of folding, I called Rebecca. She didn't hesitate. "You need legal protection," she said, "and emotional support. Talk to someone, document everything." I did. I printed every text, every email. I made a list of every time I'd sent Nathan money, every time my parents had shown up uninvited, every inappropriate message from relatives who thought they were helping, and I found a therapist, Dr. Harris, calm, direct, and not at all impressed by but their family. Her first words after hearing my story: "This is emotional abuse, Clara, and you've been trained to accept it." I cried, not because I didn't know it, but because someone else finally said it out loud. For the first time in years I felt seen, and that made me dangerous. Because now I had a name for what was happening, and with that came the power to stop it. Still, the pressure didn't let up. I got a certified letter in the mail, supposedly from a family lawyer. It claimed I had made verbal commitments to allow Nathan housing and should honor those promises immediately. I laughed out loud. There was no such commitment, no agreement, just a whole lot of nerve. I sent it to my own lawyer, Jessica, a friend from college. She took one look and said, "This is a scare tactic. Nothing more. But we'll respond formally," and we did. A cease and desist, simple, direct, legal, no more uninvited visits, no more harassment, no more pretending this was okay. That letter didn't just protect me. It told my family, the game has changed. The day after we sent the cease and desist, something shifted in me. It wasn't a dramatic transformation. There was no swelling music, no sudden burst of bravery. It was quiet. I woke up, made coffee, opened my laptop, and I didn't feel like hiding. For the first time in weeks, the lake looked peaceful again. I walked outside, barefoot on the porch. The sun was rising. The mist rolled gently across the water like a blanket being pulled back. This was mine, not given, not borrowed, mine. And I wasn't going to let them take it, so I made a list. Not a to-do list, a don't you dare list. Don't answer texts that start with guilt. Don't open emails with just checking in. Don't explain decisions to people who never cared before. Then I changed the locks, installed cameras, and with the help of a sweet old man named George from 2 cabins down, put in motion lights and reinforced the back door. George reminded me of my grandpa. Sturdy hands, slow speech, a hat that said "Still grumpy, still voting." He didn't ask questions, just helped. At the end of the day, as we shared lemonade on the porch, he said, "Family can be your greatest strength, or your greatest weakness." I nodded. He added, "My brother tried to steal my land back in '89, thought blood meant ownership. Took me years to learn. Boundaries aren't betrayal." I looked at him. "You ever talk to him now?" George sipped. "Nope. Haven't missed him a day." We both laughed. That night I slept deeply, not because everything was fixed, but because I finally believed it could be. Over the next few weeks, I reclaimed the rhythm of my life. I hiked. I read. I even joined a local book club. Just 5 older women and one man named Carl, who only reads westerns and hates any book without a horse in it. We drank too much boxed wine and argued over plot. Twists. It was perfect. In the middle of all this healing, I got a call from Jessica. "Just a heads up," she said. "There hasn't been a response to the cease and desist. That's a good sign." I exhaled. No news had never sounded so beautiful, but healing isn't always linear. One rainy afternoon, the doorbell rang. I checked the camera. It was my mother, holding a pie. I didn't answer. She stood there for 10 minutes, got back in her car, drove away. 2 days later, a letter arrived. Not legal, not typed, just my name, written in her familiar looping script. I didn't open it. Instead, I placed it in a box. Alongside the messages, the fake legal letter, and the memories I wasn't ready to burn. Yet, because... Here's the thing about reclaiming power. It's not about revenge, it's about reserving energy for what matters, my peace, my home, my future. A week later, I hosted dinner at the cabin. Just a few close friends, George, Rebecca, Carl from book club, who brought a salad he didn't actually make. We sat on the porch, watching the sunset, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything. They knew my story, they saw me and they stayed, no conditions, no demands, just presence. As we passed around roasted vegetables and too much wine, George lifted his glass. "To Clara," he said, "for fixing her house and fixing herself." Everyone raised a glass and I laughed, cheeks warm, heart full, because this was family, not the one I was born into, but the one I chose. It took me 3 weeks to decide. 3 weeks of sitting with the ache, of weighing whether I owed them. One more conversation. In the end, I didn't do it for them. I did it for me, to say the truth. Out loud. Once. So I arranged a meeting, a private room at a restaurant 2 towns. Over neutral ground. I brought copies of everything, bank transfers, screenshots, a timeline I'd created, my education, my jobs, the repairs on the cabin, every dollar earned, every dollar given. I arrived 20 minutes early, wore something simple, no jewelry, no distractions, just the facts. At 7 p.m. sharp, they walked in. My mother clutching her purse like a courtroom. Exhibit. My father stern but uneasy, and Nathan 10 minutes late wearing sunglasses indoors. Classic. "Thanks for coming," I said, calmly. No hugs, no small talk, just a table, 4 chairs, and the truth between us. "I asked you here," I began, "because I want to clarify a few things." My mother rolled her eyes. "Are we being sued?" I ignored her. I slid a folder across the table. "This is my story," I said. "In facts." They didn't open it, didn't need to, because I wasn't really talking to the paper. I was talking to the patterns, to the myths they built, to the version of me they used to make excuses for him. My degree. I paid for it. My cabin. I bought it, my success. I built it with no help. Nathan scoffed. You think you're better than us? No, I replied. I think I'm tired. I looked at my father. You once told me not to mess things up, because you couldn't afford to bail me out, and I never did. But you kept bailing out someone who never even tried. His jaw tightened. I turned to my mother. You said family means sharing, but all I've ever shared was time, money, space, and got nothing in return but silence when I needed protection. Then I placed the second document on the table, a single page titled Boundaries. Simple 5 bullet points. No more financial requests. No discussion of my home or personal property. No unannounced visits. No guilt trips via extended family. Respectful communication only. My mother read it, then looked up, offended. So this is a contract for love? No, I said. It's a condition for contact. You don't get to make rules, Nathan snapped. You're not in charge. I smiled. I'm in charge of me, that's enough. My father finally spoke. Clara, do you really think we've been that bad? I paused, then replied softly. I think you've forgotten that I'm not a backup plan. No one moved. No. One apologized, but no one argued either, because they knew. They just didn't like hearing it from the person they never expected to speak. I stood, gathered my papers, and said, if you want a relationship, this is the path. If not, that's your choice, but I won't bend again. I walked out with steady steps. No tears, no anger, just release. Outside, the air was cool, the sky wide, and for the first time in my life, my shoulders didn't feel heavy after speaking with my family. They felt strong. 6 weeks passed. No. Calls, no texts, no surprises at my doorstep. Just silence, and you'd think that would feel lonely. But it didn't. It felt calm. Like a storm had finally moved past the ridge, and the air was clear again. I filled my time with what I loved. Morning walks, fixing up the dock. Baking bread that didn't always rise, but filled the house with warmth anyway. I planted lavender outside the cabin. It took root slowly, but it grew, so did I. Rebecca visited every other weekend. We'd sit on the porch, wrapped in blankets, talking late into the night. She never pushed, never judged, just listened. One Friday, George came by with a basket of apples and a bottle of cheap whiskey. Trade you for a story, he said. So we sat on the porch and I told him everything. Not the angry version, not the edited one. The whole truth. And when I was done, he nodded and said, You didn't lose a family, Clara. You lost. An illusion. Then he added, and that's worth toasting. We clinked glasses. A few weeks later, I hosted a dinner at the cabin. Nothing fancy. Just a long table on the porch, strung with lights. A mismatched collection of chairs and people who made me feel seen. George, Rebecca, Carl from book club. Even the E, shy librarian who'd helped me find old building permits and now brought homemade pie. Everyone brought something. Food, laughter, stories. No one asked for anything. No one judged. No one compared. Just presence. As the sun dipped low, George raised a glass. To chosen family, he said. The ones who show up, not because they have to, but because they want to. We all raised our glasses. I looked around at that table, at the people who hadn't. Known me for decades, but knew me better than those who had. And I realized this was the home I'd been trying to build all along. Not just the cabin, the life. Later that night, when the last dish was washed and the porch lights were dimmed, I stood alone on the dock. The lake was still, the sky full of stars. I closed my eyes and breathed in the scent of lavender and cedar. Peace, not the kind you get from silence, but the kind you earn from standing your ground, from choosing yourself, from refusing to shrink for the comfort of others, and in that stillness, I thought, maybe. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who respects your boundaries. Not everyone will understand. Not everyone will approve. But healing doesn't need an audience, just space and time and a little bit of courage. That night, I wrote a letter to myself. It said, "You are not selfish. You are not difficult. You are not cold. You are clear. You are free." I folded it and placed it in the top drawer of my nightstand, a reminder for the days that still sting, because they do come. Sometimes in the form of a birthday card from a cousin. Sometimes a voicemail from my father. Sometimes in dreams. But now I know what to do. I light a candle. I read the letter. I step outside and feel the earth beneath my feet. And I come back to myself, to the life I built, to the family I chose. If you've made it this far, thank you. You've walked with me through silence, through storms, through the long road of learning that not all families protect you. Some drain you, some diminish you, some only love what you give. Not who you are, but healing begins the moment you realize you are allowed to say no. You are allowed to set boundaries, even with the people who raised you, especially with them. You don't need permission to protect your peace, and you're not selfish for choosing to grow beyond the role they assigned you. Clara's story isn't rare, it's just rarely told out loud. But maybe it sounded a little like yours, and if it did, know this: you are not alone, you are not broken, and you are not wrong for wanting more. So tell me, have you ever had to walk away from family to finally come home to yourself? Share your story in the comments. You never know who might need to read it. And if this journey meant something to you, hit that subscribe button, not just to support this channel, but to remind yourself that you deserve stories that reflect your strength. Until next time, take care of your peace and protect the home you've built inside you.